silver screen. Kevin and Tom and Joe know all there is to know, from masterpieces to deep fried tacos. And if the movie sucks, you might hear them say, there's no telling where the guys will take you. Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, cause we already warned you. Better watch out, it's gonna ruin the plot. Real spoilers. Real spoilers. Real spoilers.
Broadcasting from the lush but not lavish studios located in the basement of the O'Keefe Institute for Advanced Film Snarkitude, even though we're not really there, it's episode 804, Wolverines and Deadpools. So
We'll working remote. It's 2024. People work from home, so we're remotely
yes,
in the Snarkitude.
We're in our
palace.
own bunkers.
we can Snarkitude wherever we like. So
That's right.
let's
Thank
go
you.
around the table and
Snarked.
everyone can introduce themselves.
This is Joe.
This is Kevin.
It's me, Matt.
And it's me, Tom. So before we dig in, shameless plugs, don't forget we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, iHeart, TuneIn, wherever you find, well, not Google, but wherever you find a podcast, you can find us. That's by their choice, not ours. They shut it down.
Yeah, right.
YouTube Music. Isn't that easy to remember?
Yeah. Where you
Not
can,
the same as YouTube.
Yeah. Or you can
Or
find
YouTube
us on
TV.
YouTube at youtube.com/@ampersand Inye Squiggle. Real spoilers. So while you're there, leave us a review. That's always helpful. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Real Spoilers. It's called like the page, join the group. It's called the League of Show Shares because we're hoping you'll share an episode. I went through and I completely created the list of everyone who shared the episode this week, and then I left it on my computer at home and we're recording at work. So
Oh my
Dope.
goodness.
on my way over here driving in, and I was like, son of a bitch.
Looks like it's going to be a giant size show
And
share
it was a
next
big
week.
one. We had a lot of people share last week, so we are appreciative, but to ask me to do that from memory is
Not cool. Not
Well,
cool.
you know that we would like to thank you directly
That's right.
for your
You.
share.
Well, you're welcome.
You know who we're...
Oh, I thought you meant me. So you can also watch these on YouTube, which I just kind of mentioned. Our Patreon, patreon.com/Real Spoilers, where for $5 a month you get bonus content. We like you extra.
And Matt's there.
And Matt is there.
You can stare into his
It's my podcast.
warm, livid
It's a horror
pools
movie podcast.
of eyeballs. So anyway, there's all that. Let's dig in to the Deadpool and the Wolverine.
So, I don't think this is an MCU movie. It is hard because there's no real
saw the
ties
logo.
I mean,
to, besides the TVA, and the...
there really isn't.
Oh, no.
But the TVA for the
Yeah,
last
there isn't.
phase has been
Like, the
a
TVA
huge part of it.
But for all the hype
Absolutely.
about this being an MCU movie, it is an MCU movie in name only. Like, I mean, it's...
Yes.
It really, like, I really thought when we saw the Doctor Strange portal, like, this was going to be, this is how we bring them into the MCU without having to worry about all the other Fox baggage, and they didn't do any of that. And, like,
Nope.
I'm not even complaining. I thought this movie was a blast.
Yep.
Yeah.
But my only complaint is it did not need to be 2 hours and 7 minutes long.
There's
I
no
think-
need.
I think it would have. I think it would have, like, if this had been an hour 50 and they had tightened it up, I think I would be like, this is a perfect comic book movie, and it's
Wow.
and like
Yeah.
at 207, I'm giving it like 4.5 stars instead of 5.
Sure.
But because, like, again, I thought this movie
was great.
This was a lot of fun. Like,
I could be a testament to this. I sat next to Tom at the screening, and Tom, who we know has a cold, dead heart, doesn't like anything. I mean, me and him were cracking up from beginning to end.
I
this
laughed
movie
out loud
is freaking hilarious.
I love
Yeah.
I love the fact that the OG Real Spoilers crew are on board with this movie, and Matt is going to on this so hard.
That's why we had to get a different voice.
remember last week
I
when Matt and
thought
I
to
were best
myself-
friends?
I said, man, I bet I'll have Tom in my corner. At least Tom will be with me on this.
He hates
You're
everything.
by yourself.
I hated it.
Do you like the other two?
I don't know.
Okay.
See,
I
you
mean,
don't
I
like
guess-
you don't like Deadpool. You don't like his thing.
I
You
don't like
it.
Deadpool.
So
but I guess I thought the first one. Man, look, you guys. Look, I'm just so the audience knows, so the thousands out there know. I was asked to do this morning. I would have made a list of all my thoughts. So if I seem a little scattered, that's not my fault. This is just hate pouring out of me. You know,
we gave you
normally
300% more notice than usual, so
That's
you had plenty
true.
of time.
Normally, I put my hate into nice little buckets that we can. I think okay. So to Tom's point, I think this movie has no. Deadpool already felt like he didn't matter. Didn't he do this in the first movie and maybe also
He
the
definitely
second one? And then
the first two movies kind of definitely felt like they were out. They were inside the Fox X-Men stuff, but they also did not feel that way.
But we talked about this before, Matt. We talked about this when we went back on the Patreon, plug again for the Patreon, we went back and talked about Phase 1, and we talked about how refreshing Phase
in
1
which Darius
was.
gets her oats. The Beatles. Those guys I like.
We talked about how refreshing the first phase of the MCU was because it didn't tie into 50 other movies, and it all didn't matter. These Deadpool movies are a lot of fun, and they don't have to matter. It's not a bad thing to me.
No. But hold on. And that is a point I have too. But I'm saying Deadpool's motivation as a character is all of a sudden like, I don't matter. But like, wasn't the whole first movie like kind of that? I feel like he's doing essentially the same thing again. I guess you could get to some nuance like, well, the first one he had to believe in himself to fall in love. I just feel like we're doing it again. I feel like Wolverine, even though I guess he's a different guy, he's just kind of doing it again. He's like, oh, I actually suck. And then people have to be like, no, Wolverine, you're a good dude.
We've never met that
they never say
Wolverine,
never say that he's a good dude. The line from X-23, spoiler, looks okay. Hold on, time out. Spoilers.
But that's what I'm saying. They're saying, no, dude, you weren't the guy in the other one either. The other movie we watched
I disagree.
No,
We're gonna get into the spoilers. I'm saying spoilers. Spoilers. If you haven't seen it, don't watch this because there are
That's
some
the name of the show.
wild cameos and all kinds of stuff in the Marvel the Fox X-Men stuff. He does not start out being the guy, right? Like he doesn't want to be there. As that series goes forward, he does want to be there. He does make friends with Hank McCoy, or he falls in love with, he kills Jean Grey. And then in X-20, the line that, is it Laura Kinney? Is that her name? She has a line in this movie when we see her, right? So they bring her back, which I think is pretty great. It's a shame they gave that away in the trailers.
Oh, you know what? If you don't watch trailers,
That's
you don't
true.
know that.
That's very true. He says, I'm not. They have this moment where this Wolverine is like, I'm not doing it. I've never been the guy. And she says, you were never the guy, but you became him. That
Right,
version
that's
of
what I'm
Wolverine, that version never made those friendships. Like he was kind of the Wolverine from the comics where he didn't really want to be there.
Well, but right, and in the first one he's like, I'm a cage fighter. I'm not a forget you.
I gotta tell
Anyway,
you, that seemed
Bub.
like
Don't forget Bub.
yeah, the fact
Bub,
that-
sorry.
I'm a case
So-
Bub.
I feel like in a character like motivation way, it feels like a retread. It feels like I don't care. I don't want to see this again. And then right, it feels very Ant-Man to me, and that it's like we went off and did this thing that has no bearing like on anything. It just kind of we did it. Oh no, everything's gonna break, but we fixed it. So that kind of feels like
In the scheme of the MCU, you're right. I mean, we talked about like with Ant-Man. Yes, it doesn't feel like it matters overall, but when you look at how many decades of the Fox universe they were, and they were really the first comic book movies that set this thing off, right? Like you have Blade, and then you have the X-Men stuff, and for them to just be killed unceremoniously and move on with the MCU, like it's kind of nice that they gave them a closure of sorts.
but I think that's to me that's the trick. Is I thought they were going to kill it. Like I thought for sure they would end that timeline.
Yeah, but they said goodbye to it. They did.
They did.
I guess
It's as
like
good
that
as
yes.
but like Deadpool's still
First
over
off,
there.
hang on. We're talking comic books and comic book movies. Nothing is as good as dead. Like,
right, but they
if those
closed the
actors
door
are
on it.
still alive,
Uncle Ben's the only one that's dead.
There is a chance they're going to bring them back. And I will also say, based on the DCEU, even if they're not alive, they'll still bring them back. So like, I don't. It's a nice send off, but I don't necessarily believe for a minute that it solidifies the fact that we will never see these characters again. I think we should probably never see these characters again. Not Deadpool and Wolverine necessarily, but all the other ones that we see pop up. But
well, they
I
killed a bunch of them. So
they just stopped doing the Fox Marvel stuff, and I mean that they gave it a closure. Now, whether or not they choose to do it, but I'm just saying that
if they never do it again,
at
least you got something to hang your hat on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now,
And I think it's also funny how it kind of illustrates that we as a culture will develop nostalgia for anything if we're far enough removed from it.
right.
Because it's like
clips from X-Men Last Stand got me going. Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, or like it's like nobody liked the Affleck Deadpool Elektra stuff. And,
sure.
That's not something anybody's clamoring for. But when you see her pop up, you're like, oh, that's cool. But like, is it really though? I mean, it's we even have nostalgia for things that didn't happen.
As far as movies can be judged on different pillars, right? Like, I'm not going to go like Airplane's story just didn't hold up. Right. That's all about like gags and stuff, which my next
Well, it didn't hold up because they stole most of it from other movies. But
yeah. I don't think this movie's funny. And I don't think I don't think any like referential stuff, I don't think that's bad. I think that can be like fun, but to me it gets judged completely separate from the film. Like I've seen people going like, "Oh, this movie's so good. Remember when they said Nightcrawler or whatever?" And to me that's just like, "Well, I don't care." Like that sure, I guess.
I did have the same feeling. I did think this is a lot of fan service, but kind of
Which I'm fine. I'm like I said, I'm fine with it happening. It just doesn't really affect my like overall. It doesn't add or subtract until it kind of becomes like too much, maybe.
Look,
and then I start going,
I had a great time with this movie, but I don't think Matt's critique is wrong. Like I think that like I do wonder how this movie plays in 15 or 20 years. In 15 or 20 years, while we're getting close, Iron Man will still work.
Great question,
right?
Right. Oh yeah.
I don't know that. I don't know how much of this, like, if you're 20 and you were watching this movie in 20 years with your kid, who hopefully at that point is 15 to 20 years old, or you're a horrible parent.
And hopefully you're going, the MCU is a thing.
Right. Yeah, like you're going to have to be like,
I don't hope it is.
Like, okay, so here's what was going on. Oh yeah. No, so Hugh Jackman had just been on Broadway in Music Man. So Music Man is a musical from the 60s.
That is a problem with topical jokes.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the part that I think is going to have the hardest time. Now, Us Here and Now, I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. But you make a great point. I mean, that's like especially like when they joke about politics in movies from the 70s or 80s.
Right.
When we're just like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, we have no idea. It means nothing to us 40 years ago. We were babies back then.
The most egregious example of it is the Channing Tatum Gambit thing.
That's
truly
great,
doesn't.
though.
I
That's
think
great that he got to be Gambit. I mean, he's been wanting to do that for 20 years or whatever.
Okay,
like, why not
but
give him the chance to be Gambit?
But there were it's another problem I have with the movie. They do the same joke over and over and over and over, and I really feel like it's like, I know it's hard to like kill your darlings, but like pick the funniest time he goes, "Hey, and they didn't even make my movie," and use that one and like don't, because his whole character is that joke over and over, and like his dialogue, you said, in 20 years isn't even going to make sense.
I do wonder
how many people you think saw this movie and were going, why does he keep talking like that? Not the accent. The accent was funny.
But it was also bad. I was glad to see Channing Tatum playing Gambit here. I thought it was funny. I was also glad that we never really got Channing Tatum playing Gambit, because I think
He'd
it
do a
would
better
have been
job, right?
awful. And
Well, I do wonder if they reached out to Taylor Kitsch and asked him if he wanted to come back and do it, because I mean he was it at one in that Wolverine Origins
and I
movie.
thought he was a great choice. I mean, that was obviously not a
Absolutely
good movie,
right.
but I thought him as Gambit was a great choice. But I also think that, like, I don't know that Taylor Kitsch coming back as Gambit gets people talking in the same way.
No,
especially
also, my
in
guess
the
is
comedy.
in real life, Ryan Reynolds and Channing Tatum are friends, and Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Kitsch are not. Like, not
That's
that they're
fair.
enemies, but like Taylor Kitsch's career is in a different trajectory. With
That's
all due
fair.
respect.
The fact that they put him in a comic accurate suit is wild.
Yeah.
Like I did not expect that at all, and it looks ridiculous. We've said this a billion times. How people are just like, it's not comic accurate. It's like, yeah, because that's not going to work on screen. We've seen it. The only costumes that really work on screen that are comic accurate are Superman and Spider-Man. Like those are the
I'll
two.
tell you
that
what,
have-
Wolverine in the blue and yellow.
Okay,
I think he pulls
I will
it off.
not lie. When he
You had a boner. Yeah.
when he
You don't have to lie,
at
Joe.
the
We're
very
fine
end
with
of the
it.
movie when he reaches back and pulls the mask up, and I literally said, and I usually do, I said, "Holy!" Like I cannot believe that they actually pulled this off, and that mask looked fantastic. Like that suit when they finally got like the under armor off of it, when Jackman was like, "Okay, I'll get jacked for about 1/4 of this movie, otherwise I'm covering up the whole thing." When he's got the sleeveless suit.
I wouldn't say that he wasn't jacked during the whole thing, but his costume doesn't have a crop top. I mean, it's a full suit.
He's covering his body, so he doesn't have to. The dude is 50+ years old, and I think that's one of the reasons he said he stopped doing the character wanted to stop, is because he just can't do that anymore, which is fair. When you see him in Days of Future Past, it's like, Jesus Christ, brother! Like what? Like a 0.01%
I think
body
it was
fat.
the Wolverine is the one where he was like super shredded.
No, it's Days of Future Past, isn't it? Where he's sitting in that chair.
It's the Wolverine, because I remember in the interviews he was talking about how there was filming that he barely remembered because in order to get that definition, he had to get dehydrated.
Remember his abs had abs. Yeah, the Wolverine. It was ridiculous.
But it's the
I remember that
standard
cover,
thing of like somebody gets divorced and then they get back in shape, right?
Yeah.
And so they're like,
I disagree.
And honestly, I do wonder, would this movie exist if he hadn't got divorced, right? You get divorced, your finances change, and then Marvel's like, hey, we'll give you $30 million for 6 weeks of your life. And he's like, you know what? That will refill the coffers quite nicely.
That dude's making bank.
Plus, you got the figures. You've got, I've seen the Marvel Select figures that have his face, like it's Hugh Jackman's face on all of them. So yeah, he's making a little. That alimony is going to be a little bit easier to deal with this time around, I think.
I think one thing I want to address before we get into the plot, which we kind of touched on, is that people were worried, how is Disney going to handle this film, right? The first two Deadpool movies,
it's a legit
very
question,
crude,
though.
very violent, very rated R. Disney buys Fox. We think Deadpool's never going to be seen again. People are clamoring. They say they want it. They say, okay, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it right. This movie, I think, is the most violent, the most crude. Like, they make fun of Disney. They pull out all the stops. No punches were pulled. And I think that's fantastic that they actually did it.
It's
right?
actually, I watched The Atom Project yesterday with the girls, and you can see it. Like, that movie is Deadpool and Wolverine. It's Shawn Levy, right? It's the same director, same creative team, and that's
a really good movie too.
It is
I
a very
like
good
that a
movie, but there's a lot of action in that movie where you're just like, oh, they just CG'd out the blood and made it like a starry mist when they die. Like that's the difference. But
could have gone either way, right?
It could have. I guarantee you, there is a rated R cut somewhere of the Atom Project.
The Deadpool cut.
Yes, the Deadpool cut. So, it is wild to see the Disney logo, and then
it's wild to see them making fun of Disney, and not just making fun, but like really tearing into them at times.
Right.
But like that's why this movie made so much money, right? Like they pulled out all the stops, they did not censor themselves, and people showed up for it.
And they
And
showed
I
up in
think,
droves.
It benefits from the fact that as a culture, we've gotten mature enough that you can tell people, like, yes, this giant corporate conglomerate is making this movie, but it's not going to be that kind of movie. So if you don't want to see it, don't go. Right?
Right.
And now if we could only apply that same logic to drag shows and
Hey,
also,
What'd you say?
and also,
Easy.
you know what I mean?
Easy.
It's like it's not a secret what it is. Like they didn't, you know what I mean? They didn't sell you the Atom Project and give you Deadpool. They sold you Deadpool
Right.
and gave you Deadpool. Like, what are you mad about? And so I think that even 15 years ago, that would have been a lot harder to pull off. But like, we live in a world where The Simpsons live on Disney Plus, and
Sure.
like 20 years ago, that would have blown people's minds. And now,
And there's like rated R movies, right? There's passwords on Disney Plus, so people
Yeah.
can find where the stuff is, or
Yeah.
block their kids from it. So
So
it
I
can
just
be
think
separated.
I think the consumer is a lot more educated before they walk into a movie, and they know it's not as simple as, well, it says Disney, so it must be okay. And also,
Disney
like,
does-
none of the marketing, like, Disney's the people who are the rights holders, but nothing about the marketing on this movie images it as a Disney film.
Right.
So, like,
Right,
if
right,
you
right,
went
right.
into this thinking you were seeing a Disney movie, with all due respect, you're fucking stupid. Like,
Well, it is rated R at the end of the day, right?
right.
So like you
and
have
it's
that
the
barrier of
third
entry.
one, right? You know, like,
That's true. This isn't the first
Yeah.
one that we're gonna get.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
like,
there've been two
so
other
if you're
ones.
unsure, watch one of the other ones and then go, oh, then this probably is not for me, right?
Right.
But
right,
the
right,
other
right.
thing is, it's not
the
even
mom
just
that went. Well, this one's on Disney, so he can't watch the first two. But I'll take this one's Disney. So I'll take this one.
You know what, Mom? The first two were on Disney as well. They're there.
But again, it's not even just the language or the violence or the fact that it's rated R. But again, it's the they let Deadpool be Deadpool with the meta jokes, with the self-referential stuff, and at Disney's expense several times, which is really impressive because that Disney as a corporation could easily be like, hey, watch it. But also when Feige comes to them and, he's made them a lot of money and he says, hey, we got to trust these guys. Like, this is what people want and this is what these guys do. And they
And
let
you've
this
seen
stuff
their
through.
track record, right? Like,
It's
Yes.
proven, right?
it makes money. And so, like, it's not like the first one was a big roll of the dice. Anything after that is not a big roll of the dice. It's really easy for Disney to turn a blind eye at this point because they know people love it. It's going to make money. People get it, right? Like, they know that it's like it's not mean-spirited and so it, it's not the risk that it was when they made the first one.
No,
Did
not
you
at
guys
all.
watch The Hot Ones?
No, I didn't watch
Not
it.
yet.
Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. It's really funny. And they've been doing a ton of publicity. That's a really good one. They hosted Kimmel's show as guest host. That was hilarious. And then they also did a lie detector test, like for Variety or whoever does that. And Ryan Reynolds all but admits that he leaked the test footage from the first
we knew that
movie.
he leaked it though, right?
Yeah, I thought that had already been
I
established.
thought it never actually got confirmed, but he actually did the lie detector test. And anyway, watch it. It's funny, but he, in a roundabout way, basically is like, I may have given it
Well,
an assist.
for those that don't know that story, that movie wasn't going to get made. I think Fox was dipping out on it. They weren't going to make it, and then that test footage got.
Well, it was just it was never going to get made. It was a test footage, and they declined it. They just said, nope,
okay.
we don't want to
okay.
make it.
And then
he leaked it.
He leaked it at Comic-Con, and it exploded. And they're like, I guess we're making
well,
this
if
movie.
memory serves, he leaked it at Comic-Con, and didn't it end up completely stealing the thunder of a new Batman trailer or a Justice League trailer? Like, there was another
maybe.
major property that's like, here's our new trailer, and then he leaked the Deadpool stuff, and all anybody talked about was Deadpool.
Right.
That's what I'm
So
talking about. Everybody's against Zach. And I've been saying this from the beginning.
So we talked about the
Terrible.
success of this movie. So this thing was massive. We all said it would make all the money. It opened to $438.3 million,
crazy.
nearly $500 million for a rated R movie opening weekend.
Is it the highest rated? It's the highest gross.
Oh, it's
rated
funny you asked, Joe.
Yeah.
My next stat here.
Oh, okay.
$205 million domestic, $233.3 million overseas. It is the biggest rated R movie opening of all time domestically. Internationally, it overtook Joker as the biggest rated R
Good.
by 70 or 80 million. I mean, this thing is massive, not just successful, but breaking records left and right. So they made the right choices here.
They did. They absolutely did. I think releasing it on Comic-Con weekend was smart.
Yeah.
You're going to have all the hype of whatever they announced. Well, there's an episode somewhere. Could be on Patreon. Could be on this feed. I don't know. About San Diego Comic-Con this past weekend. And all the hype around Marvel at that point, and then having this come out. Like, it was a perfect storm of publicity for this movie. So we'll just get into it. The opening scene is set to Bye 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 by NSYNC. And it's Deadpool using the adamantium skeleton of Logan from Logan, the big goodbye movie for Hugh. We thought was the goodbye movie for Hugh Jackman, using it to take out, just slaughter as many TVA agents as they could.
And I think this was a great way to set the tone for the movie, right? Because we're all coming into this again before seeing it. What is Disney going to do? Is it really going to go that far, be that violent, et cetera, et cetera? And then they start the movie off with the NSYNC dance sequence and using Wolverine's skull, who is this is one of the best superhero movies of all time, Logan by James Mangold. And they're just desecrating it to kill people. Like, that tells you what you're in for. I thought that the dance sequence was hilarious. It wasn't really Ryan Reynolds. It was a double, but it's good. It's very Deadpool.
Yes, very Deadpool.
Now, I'm not hung up on this in a huge way or anything.
Oh, jeez.
Does this timeline... I mean, I guess he can time travel.
Matt, you're not wrong.
So maybe it doesn't matter.
It does,
But is Wolverine dead?
Right. So here's the thing.
It's supposed to be the future, right? That was the whole thing in the beginning, right? Old man Wolverine, he's
right.
old. Right.
And the world's all goofed up, right? Or is that not true? Did I
it seemed
misunderstand Logan?
post-apocalyptic, right? And
But,
Logan?
but the end of that movie, the end of Logan, is they're just in the woods. Like, the end of that movie, they're fighting...
Like the X-Men and Xavier were all in some desert postal. I thought it was very...
It was just
down.
Wolverine and Xavier.
He's working at, in a city, and he's a driver.
He's a
right?
limo driver.
It was
Vegas, wasn't he?
It was very Blade Runner-esque. Like, the way everything looked like Blade Runner. Yes.
Which I guess that maybe it's just that one area. Maybe that's not the whole world.
But the whole thing they always said, right, was like, doesn't killing him off... The response to Deadpool 3 being greenlit, they're sitting on a couch, Jackman and Reynolds, and they're like, is this going to desecrate Logan or whatever? No, that's in the future. We're not touching that. And, I don't know if something changed or they were hiding it, but the whole thing was supposed to be like, that happens years. I think, this is supposed to happen years down the road, so whatever we do in the meantime is still okay. But now I think clearly they obviously changed it to, we'll leave that. And then now it's just a different Wolverine.
I do think that Wolverine, the Fox X-Men stuff, and Deadpool are all in the same universe.
Mm-hmm. It seems to be what they're saying here. Because I didn't even necessarily think Logan was actually the same.
You don't think
the
Logan
universe is the Fox
you
stuff?
Could
not
you
explicitly.
could have easily made that like a what if or an alternate timeline. Agreed.
But it was I would say Logan had the same past as those movies, but if they wanted to make another X-Men movie and say that was a different branch or something, I don't know.
I think that's what they're doing, right? Like, it's like retroactively. I think it was supposed to be the same timeline in the same universe. So that's supposed to take place in 2029, which is very close, actually. But it doesn't quite line up because I never took the Deadpool movies to be in the future or anything. So
no, we know
also
that.
Keep in mind that Wade Wilson doesn't die, so he could be in the future. It's not necessarily the franchise up till now has been set in the future.
That's
true. This could be taking place in 2030. You're right. It could be right after.
I also
he died
think that this isn't the sort of movie that invites this sort of scrutiny. That's not what they're there to do. You know what I mean?
No. I mean, again, that's the whole point. When you're doing a dance sequence to bye 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 while killing people with an adamantium skeleton, that is to tell you, hey, we're here to have a fun time. shut the fuck up.
It's like when people are
what I mean?
like, how did the Flintstones have a Christmas episode? It's like, yeah, because they're the Flintstones, I guess.
Yes,
Like,
that's exactly.
Matt said, "I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it. I'm leaving." Oh, I'm back.
Right. No,
Okay.
no, it's a valid criticism, but I just think in this movie it does lend a little bit toward like, hey, let's have some
cares?
fun. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, but it's valid if you're gonna.
Yeah.
If you don't like the movie, Tom just talked about this
For sure.
a couple episodes ago, right? Like if you didn't like it,
You'll
gonna
sit
then
there and
go,
play this game. I do it all the
Scene-
time.
and this is scene 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So we
I will
find
say,
out.
in fairness, you haven't seen enough to decide you don't like it yet. You can't start doing that until at least
Well.
20, 30 minutes into the movie.
Matt says, "Hold my beer."
Yeah, right. Or non-alcoholic beer.
So really,
I'm in
to
at this point. I'm fine at this point. My complaints do start now. As far as like, I think there's some funny stuff, but I'm already going like, well, this isn't really an action scene. He does a thing to a guy, and then we cut to him doing a thing to a different guy. He's not like fighting them.
Huh?
What do you mean?
You know what I mean? Like it's like one person at a time, and he's like going, "Look what I'm doing with the bone."
he is
like they're
fighting
not
her.
like
Murders all of those people.
I know, but he's not. It's
These are
him
Bruce Lee
standing
rules,
right.
one at a time.
It's just like all gags, I guess.
The
whole movie's a
opening
gag.
credits. It's an opening credits sequence, Matt. They could have just given you a black background with white text. Like I think it's a really fun way to open a movie.
Look, it's
you know?
I just would have liked to have seen it be more of like a fight, less like cuts and.
Oh well, I think so. This is what I see what you're saying, but I think Deadpool is such a good fighter that anything that he does isn't a fight. Like he's already
he's goofing,
but he's already
And I
like,
think
he's 5 steps
problem I
ahead
have-
of all of these guys.
I don't know how much I love a movie where our two protagonists are unkillable.
So okay, I do like that because you can do as much damage to them as you want, and the regeneration
comedy,
I think is
right?
fun.
It's the fact of them going at it later in the car and just destroying and basically killing each other over and over again. Like you can play that for laughs, and it doesn't matter. They're not going to actually kill one another, but it's funny.
Yeah, there's just
could
no
be funny, in
like
theory.
stakes. There's no stakes.
Well, I think the stakes.
the
Nah,
war is the
not
stake.
this first. The
Deadpool's
first
world
one's fine.
ending.
The first one's fine. It's just planting the seed of me going, I don't know.
Yeah, I get it. Your complaints are valid, Matt. But so the plot of this movie we kind of touched on. Basically, Vanessa and Deadpool's relationship is growing stale. He is getting worried that he's not doing anything with his life. Vanessa keeps telling him you should do something with your power, right? Like the kind of great power comes great responsibility, but Deadpool's not really doing anything. So he tries to join the Avengers.
Which I
He has
think
a really
is
funny scene
great.
with Happy Hogan and John
Favreau.
Favreau.
John Favreau shows back up.
And then he gets declined. You know, he shoves him out the door.
What
and
I
Deadpool
do
doesn't.
like about that scene, he's like, "Where's the big guy?" He's like, "Yeah, he doesn't really do these kind of things anymore."
Yeah.
And I was like, "That's a pretty good joke." And then we get the announcement at Comic-Con that the big guy's coming back.
But were we to believe that they're hiding the fact that Tony is dead and Happy's running the company, or you know what I mean? What is that alluding to?
I think it depends on when he is seeing Happy, right? Like, is he seeing Happy post Endgame or pre? You know, like
this could have been before.
I
True.
thought
Yeah.
it said 2018. Am I making that up? Does that not?
I'm not saying you are making that up, but I don't remember that
I don't remember it either, but you could be right there. But anyway, so
because Endgame
so
is in the future, right?
A little bit, I believe.
I think it's
does
supposed
after
to.
the blip, right? 'Cause
Yeah, there's
that's
5
all-
years
I
after
think-
the blip.
Exactly, because I think that we said that Endgame or post blip was like 2028 or something. I do think it was in the
Yeah.
future.
It is 2018.
But anyway,
I just looked it up.
So Tony Stark
cool.
is still alive.
there you go. So that makes more sense then. So he gets declined from being a part of the Avengers, and then instead of trying to do something else, he basically gives up. He becomes a car salesman with Peter, and Deadpool's just living himself life as a car salesman, which obviously with his abilities is ridiculous. It ends up causing the breakup of Vanessa and Wade, and and then this is what propels him into trying to do something with his life.
Correct. He gets a knock at the door. The TVA is at the door, and we find out that because Wade has messed with the timeline, they're coming to get him. Is basically what we think is happening. When
is it because he's a car salesman in a different multiverse? Doesn't he travel? Didn't he say he goes to a different Earth to be a car salesman?
Oh, I didn't pick up on
I don't
that.
remember that.
Okay,
But it's because I thought it was because he went back in time and saved Vanessa and Deadpool
No,
2.
I believe they explicitly say it has nothing to do with that. He says, "Is it because of that?" And they're like, "No, it's not that. You're just special."
Oh, you're right. You're right.
So yeah, the TVA comes during this birthday party. We get another little fight scene, but they end up taking him to the TVA, I guess.
Yeah. A version of it, I guess.
And we see Tom Wamsgans is the head of this little project, is Mr. Paradox.
And we find out that I don't think, did they talk about? I haven't finished Loki season 2. Did they talk about anchor beings before? Have they ever mentioned that before?
Haven't started it. Don't know.
Okay.
I've lost all interest in MCU to this point.
Well, I will say
I don't
Loki.
believe
Loki is good
so. I think Anchor Beings is
for this
fresh
movie.
and new to Deadpool and Wolverine.
So we find out.
Although I
that
haven't seen Loki either, this is through research.
That's
I
fair.
think.
The big purple dragon thing is in Loki apparently. That we see at in the
Yes.
void. In the
that's
void.
In the first Loki.
Yeah.
That's in the first Loki,
Morena.
right? Yeah.
Yes. So we find out that every universe has an anchor being, and the anchor being in Deadpool's universe was Wolverine. And
Which is funny when he's like, "Oh yeah, it's
me."
Okay. Yeah, and then Matthew Macfadyen, Mr. Paradox, is like laughing, starts cracking up. And
It's like, no,
it's you.
No,
it's
it was.
Logan.
So this is dumb. It's dumb. This one's dumb. I know it's dumb.
Right.
But
Picking
how
bets.
does your anchor being dies, and then you've got what he says, like 1,000 years or something, or hundreds, or
He's trying to speed it up. Yeah.
but like, what happens before your anchor being is born?
It's a great question.
Well, maybe I'm just theorizing here. Maybe it goes from anchor being to anchor being, and he died before his time. So now there isn't one for some reason.
Or
So
your
there can be
time
one all
starts
the time.
when the anchor being is born.
Okay, good enough. Good enough.
Yeah, something, that's what my guess. And Logan is supposed to live forever, or
Right.
So
right?
he doesn't live
like-
forever. I think the theory is that he ages like a day for every 30 years.
Right,
I think
but
has
so
always
like
kind of been
thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So the universe would have had way more time, but now they have just 1,000, which is.
Do you want to know? You don't know a fun fact, Kevin?
Sure.
He would actually live longer, but his body, his healing factor would work faster if he didn't have the adamantium, because the adamantium is actively killing him, and his healing factor is always working, like constantly.
There you go.
Yeah, the only reason they can't give everybody adamantium is because it would kill them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So his body is constantly fighting the adamantium
Healing,
all the time.
Now I've seen people say like, oh, it doesn't matter because this is Deadpool, but like it is tied in with everything, right? I mean, like you can't just because people were saying like, oh, anchor being it's like meta because once Wolverine died in that franchise, they quit making the movies, so it's like this meta thing. So you don't, but like they are saying there are anchor beings, and
This is
I guess
MCU canon, has to be.
my issue there is that it's like now there's like incursions and there's anchor beings and there's.
It is
like, I feel
that's
like
the problem
if
with the multiverse is it gets
Could this plot have been? Could they have just said that it was an incursion? Like, do we have to keep adding different?
that's a good question.
things
I
on
guess you
top
could have
of
said it was an incursion.
stuff. I don't know. I mean, whatever. I know. I'm being picky because
They hate you. That's they just
They hate
did
me.
this.
They hate me.
Yeah.
So yeah,
They
so
do this to me.
They when Paradox reveals that Logan is the anchor being and that because he has died in Wade's world, his world is going to end. And Paradox wants to speed this up rather than it taking 100 years. He's like, I'm going to do it in 72 hours. So Deadpool punches Paradox in the face and takes his little time universe jumper thing. He's like, "Fuck it, I'm just going to find my own Wolverine." And we jump back to this scene where he's going to his world. He's going back to his universe, and he tries to wake up dead Wolverine, and he can't do it. Which I do like. I like his constant. Every time he thinks he has an idea, he is thwarted every single time. So I like his reactions to that when they talk about Magneto's helmet or things like that. And this is where we get one of the wildest montages I think I've ever seen. It is Deadpool jumping from universe to universe looking for a Wolverine. So I think the first one we get is Age of Apocalypse Wolverine. If you've never read that story, there's a Wolverine that Cyclops shot his hand off. And that's the version we get that's like in the dystopian alleyway. We get the John Byrne Wolverine in the black and brown, which is my favorite costume. Fighting the Hulk.
I thought it looked a little better. I thought
I think it did look better. I think you're right.
Well,
It's a
think
better
That's
costume.
just. I think in live action that is a little easier to pull off.
But we get a cameo from the Hulk. We get a nice homage to Incredible Hulk, an Incredible Hulk cover by Todd McFarlane with the Hulk's reflection in the claws. I do like that he calls the Hulk the thing that Loki calls him in the Avengers. You dull idiot.
Yeah.
And then he gets thrown into he gets kind of killed the way Logan gets killed at the end of Logan. We get Patch, which is a great little callback, which I thought was going to be Daniel Radcliffe. I thought that was going to be the Daniel Radcliffe cameo. We get a comic accurate Wolverine, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite ones. And then the big one, I think, that everybody sort of knew was coming, but didn't know how they were going to get it.
I had no idea.
You didn't know?
I had no idea. The Cavalry.
The Cavalrine. And if they don't cast that dude as Wolverine in the MCU, that's a missed opportunity. Because, holy
boy, Scott Eastwood.
that guy can take a long walk off a short pier.
Oh, yeah. Henry Cavill can act pretty well, I guess. So.
That's true. And he looked like he's obviously bigger.
Yeah.
I think he's bigger
like
than
when
Hugh
I
Jackman,
saw him,
but-
it almost looked like he was a young Hugh Jackman. Like he just did kind of disappear into that role perfectly.
Yeah, had the big old mutton chops. He had the cigar, chomp on the cigar. He looked great.
It could work.
Also, okay. As far as like meta things, right? Meta jokes. He did the little arm cocking thing for Mission Impossible.
He reloaded his
I think
arms.
Right, and that's the thing that I think is good because like if you don't get it, it doesn't change anything, right? It's not like what are they talking about? It like totally works, but then there's also like an extra layer. That's all.
I like that when he reloads his arms, that's when the claws popped out. And I was like, that was
Yeah.
fantastic.
That's a good joke.
Yeah, that's a very good joke.
They did a lot of little stuff like that. Like, again, even... the fact they even made a joke about Hugh Jackman's divorce in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, he says something that alludes to that. I'm just like, wow, I cannot believe they actually did that. But it didn't... I don't know. I guess you're right. If you didn't know 20 years from now, well, that makes sense. I don't know. But it also wasn't a huge plot point or anything.
I truly didn't. I didn't get that on I just thought that I have. Okay, I'll just say it now. I have a problem with what is Deadpool's deal? Like, what is his? Okay, is he?
Well, he is a goofy little goober.
It's true.
But if he's not these things, right? Like when he's going like, put my fingers up your butt. Ugh, I could feel your boner. So maybe he's a sex freak, but it seems like not because he goes like the guy's putting the costume on him, keeps touching his butt and stuff. Kind of funny. But then he's like, hey, by the way, your Taylor's a predator, right?
Yeah.
But then he's a predator. Like the guy's calling HR right after that.
Yeah.
And so my thing is like Deadpool kind of has no characterization. He's just a thing to say whatever jokes. And then so through the movie he starts to feel like a guy you're hanging out with and you're like telling a story and you'll be like so we got mud all over anal sex? Like anal sex? And you're like, yeah, man, I guess. Anyway, so there's mud all over the truck and so we had to put it in really hard. Whoa, your wiener, your big boner. Like the camping stuff, but sure, man.
But I will say, Matt, we did say, I think in our review of Deadpool 1 or 2, where the jokes were coming so fast that some of them were
coming so
hitting.
fast.
That
Sounds
was
like
for you.
me.
That was, I
Sounds
was
like what my
waiting
wife
for it.
says.
That was perfect. But there's so many jokes so quickly that some of them don't hit, but it's followed up by a joke that works. And I think,
and that is, I truly.
I will
hate
also
the
say,
shotgun approach.
Matt, to your point, the people around him are really irritated by him.
that's true.
Yeah, I don't.
Which is a
think
great
I'm
pairing for Wolverine because Wolverine's
supposed
the
to
straight
be,
man. Like, it's great that he gets paired up with like the most serious, grumpy guy, and that will just kill him over and over because he's so annoying, right? Like, how many times did Wolverine kill Deadpool in this movie because he was irritated at him?
And then I did start to get annoyed at like the other way of Deadpool being like, "So, tell us about the thing," and Wolverine being like, "Shut up! Can we tell me about the suit, man? Please! This is the fifth time he's asked you about the suit. Can we just do it? No, shut up, idiot!"
But we should. I do want to say that we got an iconic X-Men cover by Mark Silvestri, Uncanny X-Men 251. We see that happen here. We get Old Man Logan, which is who I thought this character was going to be, but.
You're telling me the Wolverine crucified to the X wasn't worse than this Wolverine?
So, no. Only because...
Tell me that's the worst one?
Because he was a hero. I think Mr. Sinister posted him to the wall. I think that's what that is, if I remember right. It's been a while since I've read those comics, but... That one was a hero. He didn't. So he
didn't kill all his friends or get all his friends killed or
which
run
is
away
what.
or
So
whatever.
that's the story of Old Man Logan, which is which is the old man sitting on the porch with a shotgun. That's what that version is, and that's the version I thought this was going to be. In that story, Wolverine, the villains, all of the Marvel villains switch. So instead of Magneto fighting the X-Men, he's off fighting Captain America. In that story, Mysterio, the Jake Gyllenhaal Spider-Man character.
Oh, geez, go to the bar.
That was just for you, Kevin. I did that just for you. He made Wolverine think that all of his biggest villains had invaded the X Mansion, and Wolverine goes into a berserker rage and kills who he thinks is all the villains. And then, as the visage is lifted, he realizes that he has murdered all of the X-Men.
But am I mistaken? I didn't think that's what happened in this movie.
It is
which I
not
thought,
in this version.
That's what they were going to do, but he just like ran away or like just left when they were all getting killed.
He runs away.
No,
he gets revenge, but then he keeps going. He keeps killing innocent people, I believe.
But he
that's
doesn't
exactly
kill them
it.
as the main
he keeps
thing.
He leaves the X-Men, and when he comes back, when he comes back, the humans, the normies, have killed a bunch of the X-Men, and he snaps and starts killing all the guys that killed the X-Men, and then killing good guys as well. And that's why he is. It's kind of funny that he's even allowed in places.
That's what I was going to say. That's what didn't make sense. He's in the bar.
Like
people
Osama
are just
bin Laden is just hanging out at the bar. He'd be like, man, what you did to those towers, I don't like it. One more drink for you, and then you're out of here.
It's probably a liberal bar, man.
Yeah, we can't turn away service to everybody.
Yeah,
probably right.
Well,
all he's got to do, all Osama's got to do is dye his hair blue, and he's allowed in.
What they should have done is instead of having them all be like, "Oh, that guy is a loser or drunk or whatever," they should have all been scared of him.
Oh, sure.
Right.
And maybe they did not play that. Maybe that was part of the
Yeah.
thing, but that's not played that way at all.
but ultimately, it doesn't matter.
No.
But that's the problem with one, it doesn't matter because of the tone of the film.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't matter
I'm with you
because
that
that's how these things. Once you start doing multiverse, like that is also the downside. Like none of it matters. I also feel like this movie was kind of a cautionary tale to the Marvel Disney execs to be like, lay off the multiverse.
Yeah.
Like because there's no stakes. Like
lay off the multiverse
don't worry,
stuff, but our next two big Avengers movies are all about the multiverse.
Yeah.
But then I agree with what you're saying that like it doesn't matter. But then the movie has this big like heartfelt scene by the fire, and we're obviously supposed to really connect with that.
With X-23
and that's what I'm saying,
Wolverine?
like, right.
Yeah.
And it does feel like the movie kind of wants it both ways. And people online, I think, are being both ways about it, where if you criticize, well, this doesn't really make sense, they're like, there's Deadpool, dude, chill. But then they're also like, oh, man, and when X-23 is like, you were never the right guy, it's so touching. But I don't think it can... If his story doesn't matter, then his big change doesn't matter either.
Well, the story
and that's
matters
what I'm
to
saying,
Fox. It doesn't matter to MCU, really.
I'm talking about like his character story, like, and so like, and like I'm saying, like Airplane doesn't ever at the end pull this like, oh, and by the way, I love you. Well, like they don't try to like, and now we're gonna pull on your heartstrings.
It's funny because it kind of does, but it doesn't even take that seriously, right? Like Leslie Nielsen's given that speech about like when the chips were down and blah blah blah, and like he ends up in the airplane alone because everyone's evacuated, and he's still giving the speech.
Yes, and if they did that scene and just did it straight. Right, and the end is like that's how it ends. I think you would be going, what are you trying to do here? But then they, I don't know.
But the thing is with these movies, they don't just make jokes of everything. Even in Deadpool, there's always heart to it. There's always the relationship with Vanessa. There's always the people at the mansion, the X-Men they could get in the second Deadpool movie. There's always these really strong relationship bonds that like grounds it to a certain extent, and I think people connect with that. Like you said, I mean, yeah, I know it's kind of a tonal shift, but people dig that there is some grounding to like the character caring about someone or family or and I just think that's what these movies
I think
do.
you have to Matt's point, though, I think you have to give him something, because if he is that Deadpool character for 2 hours, that's a lot.
And that, like with Wolverine, right? This character, it's so much. I mean, I don't really like when people are like, oh, you got to show, not tell, because like sometimes you totally can just tell. It's fine. Or, I don't know. I feel like the internet has made everybody think they're like a good movie critic. Like people love. I've talked about this before. When people say, when people will say like that movie had no plot, and it's like it absolutely did have a plot, but people love to say that like it didn't even have a plot. Anyway, but oh no, it's gone. It was just going to get people mad at me anyway. I don't know.
See, if you were an internet critic, you would remember your point.
I guess I'm just saying that I think the balance is like, and it's just like Wolverine is just like telling us like, yeah, I wasn't a hero, but now I am, and I'm like, well, I can't.
All
okay,
right, so
if you say so.
So Wade gets the Logan that is down on his luck in the bar, and they end up going to the TVA. He brings Wade in there. He's like, he brings Logan, and he's like, here you go. I've got my Wolverine now. It will be fine. And
I do like the paradox.
That's not.
He's the worst. He's the worst one. You could have got all of them. He's the worst one you could get.
But it's also like you can't just. Well, in his theory is like you can't just bring anyone. It's like that was the one that died was your anchor.
Right.
So none of this matters. They try to attack him. He uses the little Loki mini pocket stick.
No. They send him to the void.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He uses the stick to poke him, and then he disappears. They go to the void.
Now see, the Loki pokey stick is very different.
I said the Loki pokey mini pocket stick purposefully so you wouldn't spend a minute critiquing this.
I'm going to do it.
So anyway, he sends him to the void, and this is where we end up meeting some surprise Fox characters. I guess at Comic-Con they announced this before the movie came out.
Oh,
but
did they?
to
That's
me,
a shame.
This was a huge surprise because I had no idea who was in this movie, but the people they brought back.
Well, some of the people. They brought back some characters, but they are not the same actors. That is when we get to the Cassandra's cave or lair, there's a lot of characters that are there, but they are not the same actors.
But let's talk about the heroes, though.
So the first one we get, and as soon as he starts talking, and I was like, oh, God! Like I cannot believe it is very well done. If you look at the character from the waist down, he's wearing the Captain America pants and boots, and he's got the blue. He's got red like wrapped around his hands, and he's got the blue sleeves. This character jumps down, takes the hood off, and it's Chris Evans. Now, as soon as I saw his
hair,
hair,
a Mad Max fight scene. All the bad villains from Fox are approaching them.
Some of them,
and then
but yes,
okay. A lot of the bad guys from Fox are approaching them.
Yeah.
And then, like, you see, Captain America's here to save him. This variant is going to team up with them, and they have a big badass fight scene.
As soon as he takes the hood off, and I was like, his hair's brown. That's not Steve Rogers. And he's like, get behind me. We're going to say the thing. He's going to say the thing, and it says flame on. And we get Chris Evans as Johnny Storm. Like, it's the original Johnny Storm, and of course
that was a great reveal.
It was very good. Was good. We get Pyro from the X-Men movies, which is also very random. Same actor. That is the same actor. We get Tyler Mane, Rob Zombie's Michael Myers, for our horror fans out there. Also, the X-Men Sabretooth, who gets dispatched very quickly by Deadpool, cuts his head off. And then you see Toad, who I don't think was Ray Park.
I thought Wolverine cuts his head off because that's the fight. They're half brothers or whatever.
They are half brothers, but I think
Wolverine
does
kills
he?
him because they have their fight they finally got that they never got to have.
Oh! Well, it doesn't last long.
So, and he dispatches him instantly, which is the joke of it.
Yes.
It's like, oh, that was it.
You see Toad from the X-Men movie, from the original X-Men movies, but I don't think it was Ray Park. And then they get taken. They get taken, and they
know what happens to a toad when it gets struck by lightning?
The same thing as everything else.
What?
Oh, okay. Just checking.
Oh,
You're right.
Sure. Okay.
And I do like that line. I don't believe a word Joss Whedon says at this point, but he's like, that line was supposed to be read a little bit differently.
A throwaway line.
Yeah,
And
right.
she's like doing
And they
King
did.
Lear with
Well,
it.
okay. Also, if it's supposed to be a throwaway line, which is fine, don't zoom in on her face. Don't make it a close up when you're just supposed to be a, So we go to Cassandra Nova's lair, who we find out is Charles in the comic books. She is Charles Xavier's twin sister.
Is this the first time we've ever in these movies been introduced to her?
Yeah.
Was she in any of the other?
No.
I thought there was
That may not be
something
true.
where- No, who is the bad guy? Or wasn't it in like X3 or one of those where there's like a mute, like he's like in a wheelchair and he's something to do with Xavier.
I thought that was Mimic.
And I just can't remember. It's been so long since I've seen those movies, but he's like fighting Wolverine or something, and he's in a wheelchair and he's related to Xavier in some.
Isn't that the one
capacity.
that like Xavier takes over his body?
Maybe I can't remember, but anyway, so we've never seen her.
No,
in these
no,
movies.
she was a huge
Okay.
villain in the Grant Morrison, like new X-Men stuff. Like she was a big part of that. So in this scene right here, we get Ant-Man's corpse, which I think is Giant Man. I guess they get the joke that Paul Rudd finally aged because it's just his skull.
That was funny.
And we get to see looks of who I think in the crowd is Juggernaut, not played by Vinnie Jones. It's a different person, but in the Juggernaut costume.
This week's
Azrael?
Juggernaut.
This week's Juggernaut. That's right.
yeah.
So we
Wasn't Vinnie Jones in the Deadpool movies? Was he?
No, it was Ryan Reynolds.
No.
It was a CG. It was a CG Juggernaut voiced by Ryan
was
Reynolds.
it? Oh, was he? Oh, that's
Yeah.
funny. I didn't catch that.
But it's not Vinnie Jones.
But Deadpool 2 has a Juggernaut too, and he's huge, right?
That's the
Comic
one.
accurate Juggernaut.
That's the one.
That was Vinnie Jones?
No, that's
No.
the one I'm talking about. That was the CG.
Oh, Ryan Reynolds did the voice in Deadpool 2?
Yes.
I completely. That's
Yeah.
funny. I didn't realize that. Okay.
So we get Juggernaut. We get Lady Deathstrike. We get Azazel, who is Nightcrawler's father. So you get all of these X-Men characters, but none of the actors. So like Kelly Hugh is not Lady Deathstrike. But you know,
These are throwaway characters, though. Like the heroes that we need to mention
Yes.
here that he finds are actually the actors.
The actors,
but,
yeah,
but they
so-
have speaking parts and actual depth to their characters. These characters are just a fight scene, and they're all getting
correct.
killed.
Well, oh, I will say, I think we do get the Kevin Nash Russian character from The Punisher, but as a different
Yeah.
actor. He's
That's
the guy in the red and white striped shirt with the blonde flat top. That
Gotcha.
is from The Punisher, but it's not Kevin Nash. Like it's somebody else. So our
I
character,
completely forgot the Punisher movies.
there's a reason. That's yeah. So our two main characters get away. They use what looks like somebody's rocket boot, and they get out of there. They land somewhere, and they meet good guy Deadpool.
I assumed it was like a Sentinel leg or something.
That's what I thought too, or maybe an
I figured.
Iron Man boot. Who knows? Or a Hulk Buster armor. I don't know.
Yeah.
Also, missed opportunity to give you the Gray Hulk. Kind of wanted to see that, but not in the Void, I guess. So they get away. We run into the dog pool and good pool, who is a very Canadian Ryan Reynolds.
He looks like Ryan Reynolds when he was in Van Wilder. Like he's so like fresh faced and young.
Long hair, like he's got his hair up in a bun, and he's got a very different suit, like a very armor plated suit for a reason.
Shiny.
Maybe there's extra
Now-
armor in there.
Did he? This is. I'm just throwing a complaint here. He had a very
Finally.
pronounced bulge, I believe.
He did.
not my complaint. My complaint is that then they did it to Peter too.
They did give Peter a giant
And it's
bulge.
just like, all right, yeah, man.
That's
Wieners
true.
are funny, I guess. It's just like pick one time to do your joke.
I guess I don't remember seeing that joke. Maybe I wasn't paying as much attention, Matt. But
No, he's not wrong. He had a massive
I
look
didn't
dick.
catch the Ryan Reynolds one. I thought Peter's suit was too small, so everything was kind of, pronounced. But I didn't.
A character
notice
comes on screen, I'm checking their crotch first thing
Yeah,
to see if there's a joke down there. Maybe I'm right. Maybe the nice pool didn't.
No,
I
you're
thought
right.
it
He did.
And
He did. I'm with you.
well,
It's
maybe it's
just-
just
I
a
don't know.
normal bulge to Ryan Reynolds.
Maybe. Good for
Oh,
him, though.
shoot. Oh, no. Oh, no. Maybe I'm... Everyone walking around with these 3-inch penises. It's insane. There's no way.
So yeah, we see him, and then he says that he can take. They're going to cross the Badlands or the Borderlands. Badlands? It doesn't matter. They're crossing the desert.
Borderlands comes out next.
That's right. Which I thought was an Amazon Plus show, and I did not realize it was an actual movie. So they're driving and they're going, and they get. This is where we get a giant fight eventually between Deadpool and Wolverine in the back of the car.
This is just like how many ways can they kill each
And
other?
they are just going
and
at each other, right? And not. And, well,
They
I don't
basically
know.
pass out because they've killed each other so many times, and then Wolverine's sleeping, Deadpool's all tied up, and then Elektra.
No,
spoilers.
it's X-23.
Is it X-23? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Takes the van, drives it to the hideout, and then this is where we get our hero reveal for the Fox.
The big,
heroes.
so these characters, it's slow mo, of course. Like that's what we're gonna get. We get. I almost called her Carmen Electra. That's not right. Jennifer Garner walks through as Electra, and I do
Carmen
like
Electra.
as Carmen Electra. Yeah, I like the joke about Daredevil and the Punisher, and she was like, "It's no big loss," and I was like,
That,
"All right,
that was
that's a good joke."
That's another very relevant, like current thing with Affleck, though. She's talking about Affleck.
Yeah.
Her husband
sure.
was the right. So like, that's
absolutely
another
talking about
topical-
Affleck,
But it,
yes.
but it was funny though, right? I mean, I like that.
But
one.
I also think
Very
them
quick,
being
very
So we-
tossed
married
off.
for years and then now divorced, I think that's kind of a well-known enough piece of pop culture that in 20 years it'll probably still make sense.
Yeah,
In a way
probably.
that
I
the
mean,
Beast
kind
of
of
Man
just-
reference won't.
Gotcha.
I think it's a little bit funny on its own, right? Just Elektra being blasé about Daredevil being dead is still
you can
kind of
take it as the movie was
like-
bad. You could take it a lot of different ways. So that's true.
right.
And then the one that I never saw coming, honestly,
Yeah.
I would never have
In a
ever.
million years.
Wesley Snipes walks through the door as Blade.
Remember, famously, Ryan Reynolds and Wesley Snipes hated each other. In
That's
Blade
the line.
Trinity.
The line in the movie
So,
where he's like, "I don't even like you." She's like, and he's like, "It's been like that for a while."
but like that's the thing. So you would have never in a million years. But like
Yeah.
time and money heals all wounds, right? Like,
And I
it's
gotta
a
tell you,
funny-
I think Wesley Snipes needs the
Prison.
money.
well, yeah, that's true. That's true. It definitely can't hurt. But
It's
like,
probably
you
also
think
a
about
lot
it-
easier for Ryan Reynolds to reach out coming like at the peak of his career with his career-defining character in
Right.
Yeah.
the third in his franchise. Right, it's a lot easier to be like, "Would you like?"
It
to
is
come
funny.
on board?
It's funny to think of the old adage, like you never know. Don't be careful who you step on your way up because you never know who you're going to see on the way down.
Right.
And like this is life imitating art right now because Ryan Reynolds was on his way up and Wesley Snipes stepped on him in Blade
And
3.
yeah, what happened to
And then he
Wesley
put him in a
Snipes
huge
and-
movie.
What movie?
Deadpool.
Oh, what's
and
not?
Wolverine.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I think
right.
you
Sounds
extended
like
the
a
olive
great
branch. Well,
idea.
But first of all, now, like you said, Ryan Reynolds kinds to get to be like, hey, Wesley, how's it going? Would you
Yeah.
like to be in my movie? That's the
right.
thing. It's a lot easier, and I think that's Ryan Reynolds again extending the olive branch. Maybe Ryan Reynolds was kind of a douche on Blade Trinity, and maybe he felt bad about some stuff. I don't know. That could have been his way to say sorry. I was a hot shot back then, and we didn't
Or
get along.
from what
but,
I've heard
like,
about Wesley Snipes, it may have been the other way around.
it could
When they
been,
have when
but
they had to
either
when they
way.
have to CG his eyes because he doesn't want to open his eyes. Come on.
Is that a rumor? Or did that really happen?
If you look at that movie, those do not look like
mean-
real eyes.
The eyes are CG'd, but who knows? Maybe they just decided they should be open. Who knows? I don't know. I don't remember the scene.
And then either way, though, it's that much more sweet because it's Ryan Reynolds. Then if Snipes was the jerk, then Reynolds gets to come with his. I mean, he's Ryan Reynolds has to be on his way to being a billionaire with all his.
He
businesses
probably already
at this
is.
point,
He has to be at this
right.
point.
Like if The Rock's almost there, I'm pretty sure Ryan Reynolds is up there. So like he gets to be like, hey Wesley, you want to be in my movie and work for me? Like that's and Snipes basically is like, hell yeah, because
right. Oh, I feel like we should say they kill Johnny Storm. Quickly.
That's a really funny callback too.
Yeah, they Cassandra Nova rips his skin off, and he just like is there as like a skeletal structure with and just drops into goop.
Post credits is funny.
The post credits is funny.
Yeah, which is I guess another thing that I think is like with humor, that is funny because of the characters and like what you've seen and like the story. I feel like Deadpool just like saying stuff. It just isn't funny.
It's not. You have to bring a lot of knowledge to it for the comedy to work.
Yes.
Oh, I'm talking more when he's just like I feel like anytime he touches someone, he's like, "Is that your boner?" Like that kind of stuff. It's just like, shut up.
I think you're making that up. I don't think he said that once, Matt.
Well, I'm sorry. He would say like, "Is that your titanium meat rod?" He's got all funny little.
Now that was one of the funniest lines in the movie. Matt,
you're
right.
My cinnamon roll, my.
All right, so and then Channing Tatum finally gets his chance to shine as Gambit, which I think is for different reasons one of the most surprising parts next to Blade, where it's just like, what? We never even saw this guy. He tried to get this done for 15 years or however long.
I think he's still trying to get it done.
But it's cool because it's like, I think last we heard, like, it's never going to happen, but he got to do it. And even though it is a joke, he's still actually kicking ass as Gambit. So
I was impressed when they go back to Cassandra Nova's lair and he starts throwing the cards and using the staff. I was like, all right, that was pretty cool.
They got to let him use all his attacks, like all his famous stuff. So,
and then the final part of this puzzle is, I'm pretty sure her name was Daphne Keene, walks down the stairs as X-23, which I think is great. Like she's a fun character, and I'm glad that they were able to bring her back because they kind of always wanted to bring her back.
Daphne Keene.
Yeah, I think the character's name was Laura Kinney. I think is the X-23's real name. They figure out that the only way to stop Cassandra Nova is to get Magneto's helmet. And I do like the Blade's like, yeah, they melted that down when they killed Magneto. And he was like, God damn it. So the other helmet that might work is the Juggernaut's helmet. So they devise a plan. Wolverine's like, this, I'm not going. Like, I'm totally fine staying here. And he has a sit down with X-23, and she kind of gives him the old pep talk. And she's like, look, he's like, I'm not that guy. And he's like, she basically walks away and says, you were never that guy, but you stepped up when you had to. And our main characters, well, I guess our offshoots of these other,
the heroes,
I guess, take this Honda minivan and they go back to the Ant-Man corpse, and a giant fight sequence ensues, and we get to see everything that kind of all of these characters can do. And of course the reveal at the end is when you think that it's just these four, the trunk opens up and Wolverine gets out of the trunk and it's game on. So they go and they start tearing up. We get to see Jennifer Garner gets her flowers. We see Blade.
Right. We've seen Blade kick ass, but we haven't seen Elektra really kick ass in a movie of this caliber, right?
No, those sandbags. You don't remember?
Oh, yeah.
I wish, you know what, honestly would have been a great joke is if they would have played Bring Me to Life by Evanescence, like during this, because that's the song that's playing in Daredevil, because, movie tie-ins. And we see Gambit doing the Gambit thing, which I thought was
cool.
great.
Yeah,
like, it is very cool.
Good.
But our two, Wolverine and Deadpool, end up going after Cassandra Nova. They've got the Juggernaut's helmet, and we get the reveal of what actually happened to Wolverine. And he's walking, he's wearing the traditional Wolverine outfit, which is a white t-shirt and jeans, walking through, which I feel like this was from the comics, but I don't remember, where he's walking past all of it may have been in like Days of Future Past, maybe. The comic book version where he's walking by all of the... It looked familiar,
but I couldn't remember either. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really... But he's all the monuments of everybody that's died. Deadpool ends up getting the helmet on Cassandra at the very last possible second. And we... Go ahead.
the reason given that she doesn't just kill them is that she like wants a Wolverine to hang out with.
She wants a Wolverine in her crew. Yeah,
He's unstoppable. Yeah.
Good
And
enough.
This is
good
this
enough.
is the
That's
one
fine.
of all of. I mean,
It's thin, but it's good enough. Hey, her sticking her hand in people's heads.
That's
cool.
creepy, right? That's say,
wonderful.
Give her props though. So Emma Corrin is the actor that plays Cassandra Nova, and I thought she did a good job as a villain.
She's
was,
very good.
You know, creepy, and
I do like that they talk about how Charles is a telepath and he can just kind of, from far away. She's like, yeah, I'm a little bit different. I need to get my hands on you.
I mean, her poking the eyes and then like the CGI making their eyeballs go around the fingers and everything. It looked cool.
Yeah. Oh, it was great.
Yeah, it looked very cool. So we find out that she basically says, I can get you back there. I can get you back where you need to go. But I don't remember. It doesn't matter. We find out that she's got a sling ring.
As soon as you take the helmet off, I'm just going to kill you. But then Flame Guy walks in, shoots her. She's going to die.
Oh, that's
Wolverine
right. That's right.
says,
I'm not going to kill you.
Which I don't think this was supposed
Flame
to be
Guy
funny.
the same? He had to be the same actor,
Yeah.
right?
That was Pyro from X2. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same guy.
Yeah.
I don't think this is supposed to be a funny thing, but I do remember I think the Wolverine, he's just slaughtering people, right? And then he gets to the last guy. Gets to the last guy and he's got him, dead to rights, and he's like, I'm not like you. I'm gonna let you live.
It's like, what?
And it kind of does the same thing here, but I don't think it was supposed to be a joke, but it did make me laugh that he's just killed so many people, and he's like, no, Jean would have wanted me to let this lady kill us later.
Yeah.
And he does. They take the helmet off, she heals herself, and yeah, she
You're right.
has a
He
sling
lets
ring.
he takes the helmet off, and of course that allows the line that I did like from Pyro, and he was like, hey, don't touch me, like just ask, like, if you just ask me, I'll tell you the truth, like just don't put your fingers in my brain.
An interesting thing in movies, how sometimes they just go like whatever, it can just work that way, but like in the sling ring had two infinity stones.
Oh, did it?
On it? It's got a green and a red, I think a reality and a whatever the other one is, but like I assume that's to
green
be
is
like,
green is time,
this,
reality is red.
This can teleport you across realities because of this.
Oh, I guess those characters were already in the regular MCU, right? When Ned says, "Show me Peter Parker," Andrew Garfield walks through, but I think those characters were already in the MCU because of the thing that happened earlier in that movie.
Oh yeah, they get brought in,
but they were already there. They were already in there, so that's okay.
Right, but it's just a funny thing of like, I imagine someone went, "Well, sling rings don't work. Well, what if we put?" But then there's other things in the movie where they don't make any attempt. I don't know.
Yeah, we have to look it up. I'm not sure how those connect.
So yeah, so our two characters do the superhero jump through the portal. They end up back in the right timeline. And this
paradox is the clock is ticking, the Time Ripper's going, it's about to destroy their universe.
And Cassandra comes through as well.
Yeah.
And they think everything's fine, but she's like, no, I'm going to get the Time Ripper. And she goes down there and starts fighting, or starts accessing the Time Ripper. And we see basically as a way to distract Wolverine and Deadpool, we get all of the Deadpools. Because Goodpool had said, he's like, there's a bunch of us here, but nobody ever. So we get Blake Lively as Lady Deadpool. We get
the voice at least,
right? Yeah, we get both of Ryan Reynolds' kids. I think are Kid Pool and Baby Pool.
I wondered. Okay, that's funny.
Yeah, Tom Holland's brother is one of the Deadpool variants.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's funny. But every comic, every variant of Deadpool, what if?
Yeah, you'll get the Head Pool. You'll get all that. They're all there. And this is the scene.
Funny.
This is the scene where I was like, let's. The line from the movie is "Let's fucking go," and you get to see Wolverine and Deadpool basically do an old boy style fight sequence where they're just murking, and
with a mouth.
That's right. They come walking out, and then Deadpool makes a comment, and Wolverine's like he reaches back, pulls up the helmet, the mask, and I do like the line. He's like, "You've been saving that the whole time," and he was like, "I just use it for killing." And
it was good. It's a great fight sequence. It's very funny. It's very bloody. It's really good.
And yeah, I think it's great. I think the mask
Deadpool
looks
as
great.
a human shield.
They do. And he's like, he'll regenerate. And he's like, regenerate?
That's the funny part. Yeah, so all these other Deadpools, after they kill him, they get up, and it's like, yeah, they all regenerate. But when they use Good Pool, he's just like
he does not
bleeding out of his
regenerate.
mouth, and it's like that's his thing. Yeah, he doesn't
Right.
do that.
And they just go ham. It is wanton acts of violence against all of these Deadpool characters.
But the Deadpool characters regenerate. They have them dead to rights. But then Peter shows up, and
They all
like,
love Peter.
And so,
I will say, I do like that at the very end when they jump through the bus window, there's a very comic book version of them jumping, and then Ryan Reynolds trips over the lip of the window. He's like, I screwed it up. I can't believe it. It was perfect.
I
It was
like how
perfect.
He's like, all that cool stuff just happened, and all you're going to remember is that I tripped through the window. That was pretty good.
So
but
they
Peter
run.
saves the day. Did you see his package, by the way?
This
I don't know if
giant.
he's.
I did.
Yeah.
It was a massive
Okay.
package.
Just checking to make sure. So anyway, they get to the Time Ripper. Cassandra's there. She's
She's
plugged
ripping.
into
She's
it.
ripping time. That's what she's doing.
ripping time. They
Paradox,
get to like the,
Paradox says, he's like, look, the only way to turn this off is there's matter and antimatter. You got to smash them both, or be a conduit between the
Well,
two.
you got
It's
to
the
connect
only
them
way.
both. But yeah, whoever's in between would surely die.
Right. So of course we're thinking, okay, it's going to be Wolverine. Like that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's going to be this version. Well, it turns out to be Deadpool. Pulls the old
Just
switcheroo.
because, Deadpool pushes him out and locks the door and says, "I'm going to do it." And, yeah.
Armageddon style. Spoilers. Sorry.
Oh,
Right. I guess it is Armageddon style. I didn't think about that. And then that both Wolverine breaks through the door, and it becomes both of them. We get a jacked to the gills Hugh Jackman. I think that's got to be a little bit of CG. I have to believe
that is huge, jacked man.
that is huge jacked man. That's right. And they win. They stop. They explode the Time Ripper. We think that both these characters. Well, they lead you to believe that both these characters are dead. They're not. The TVA shows up and goes, basically says that Paradox, you screwed up. He's like, no, it wasn't me. Like I was trying. It was Cassandra Nova, and I was trying to. Like my team ended up winning everything. And of course, here comes Deadpool and Logan walking through the thing. Logan not wearing a shirt, but just the mask, which I just think is a hilarious look. Like it's so dumb, but I think it's very funny.
And then the person from the TVA is like in love with Peter.
Because
right?
of
Yeah,
it's Hughes
pretty
Johnson.
Funny. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
So they say, "Can we?" That resets the timeline.
They say the world's saved.
Yeah, they're regenerating. The timeline is regenerating, and Deadpool kind of says, "Look, can we fix Logan's timeline?" And the line is like, "Look, that timeline needed to die. That those events needed to happen to get to Logan being this version of this character."
Yeah, I like that in time travel movies, right? You can't, just because they can undo everything, it's like, but you are who you are because you went through this stuff. So by undoing that, you would then not be who you are. So like, they're like, let it be. You are who you are, and now you can be here. And
yeah. And so the end of the movie is they're all sitting around and having a party. We see that Wolverine has stayed. So I don't know if that means that
I guess
Wolverine is now alive again in that world. I don't know, because Daphne Keene is
seems
there.
like it.
X-23 is there as well. They brought her back,
Yeah, I guess they went and got her.
and because he asks if they can all. He's like, I was with a
it
bunch
was
of people.
weird. Like, where's Blade and Electro? But then
Yeah, they're like-
they would have
when
gone
they
back to
do
their
that,
worlds.
You never see him. Yeah.
yeah, I thought
Why
it
is
was a little weird.
X-23? I mean, I guess they just went and zapped her.
I
Why
guess
was
because
she in the
because
void at all?
because those Fox movies were done.
Because Fox stopped using
Well, I guess. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly it.
Well,
yeah.
right, but I mean, but Deadpool's whatever. I mean, I guess they just went and zapped her. I don't know.
Well, I think they do kind of say that like they were picking people out that had the ability to stop Paradox. I don't know why Elektra and
makes-
Blade and Gambit.
Oh
were
yeah, I
part of
guess
that,
he was
but-
just taking out all the heroes that would get in their way or
Yeah,
whatever.
so they
I
bring her
didn't
back.
necessarily think that because Punisher, Blade, and Daredevil aren't necessarily in the X-Men
No,
universe.
they are not. None of those
So
characters line up
those-
together.
Those timelines may have been pruned and sent. to
Oh,
the-
maybe that's true.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah,
But
That's a good point.
X-23 would have been in.
She's
the
still going to be
X-Men.
born. Like when they bring the older version of X-23 into like 2018 Deadpool, that character, the lore
Oh, yeah. Right.
Laura Kinney is still going to be born later.
Huh.
Right? Because if Logan is in the future...
Yeah, but
And-
it's 2028. It's not that far. She's still probably alive. She's older than 10, right? She's a teenager in this movie.
Oh, in this one, I think she's in
But
her
in
20s.
the first
But in Logan, she's a child. So there's going to be two versions of X-23 in the Deadpool timeline.
That's weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Time travel, man.
Time travel.
Maybe she's just visiting for a barbecue. Maybe she
That
then
could
goes
be.
back.
They kind of do
Right,
say
right,
that.
right.
I don't know. And that's how this movie ends. Is we've got Wade starts talking to Vanessa again, and we get a montage of set to "Good Riddance" by Green Day of all of the former Marvel not MCU stuff.
He brought her back to life.
Yes,
And she's going to go, Wade, you're just not doing anything. Such a loser.
he did save her life. Yes, you're right.
The conflict is very weird. I agree that the thing that propels, the insinuating action or whatever you want to call it, to Deadpool going on this journey, it is a bit ridiculous, but also it's like, just because you saved her, she's not now his slave.
No,
like,
no,
if, you know what I
of
mean?
course
Like,
not,
that's
but-
the thing. You can't save someone's life and now they have to be in a relationship with you.
But
So-
maybe you should just move on, Wade. Maybe you're being a little bit...
You just
maybe
hang on,
she
hang
don't
on,
like
baby.
you like
and I
that.
do think she stuck with him. I think we're to believe that years and years have gone by and she was trying to get him to, and like she just couldn't
Right.
do it anymore. She's like, this is going nowhere. I mean, he ran away to be a used car salesman in a different timeline or whatever. Like, it's ridiculous what he was doing.
It was a little
You're
wild.
right.
But
And then
the scene's very funny.
we should say that
Yes.
the reason Johnny Storm is killed is because Deadpool's like, oh man, he was talking so much about Cassandra Nova and just going on and on and on and on, and Logan, and that's when...
And then he's like, no, I didn't say that. And you're like, of course Deadpool's making this up because
Right.
he's just being a total goober.
and we get Deadpool winding it back, and it's Johnny Storm, Chris Evans, actually saying all of the stuff,
Word for word. all
word
the
for
funny
word,
stuff,
which I
is-
thought was great. And he's like, "Ha ha! I told you." And
That was
that's
good. Yeah.
that's how the movie ends. If this is the end of Deadpool in this fashion, I think it's a hell of a way to go out. I don't think it will be.
Did I mention to you this made $500 million
Yeah, right.
in a week?
But
Yeah,
I will
right.
say, if this is the
Did-
end of Hugh Jackman, if this is finally it,
if it's not the end of Robert Downey Jr., this is not the end.
That's
of Hugh
true.
Jackman.
That's
He'll
true.
be
I
back.
think
It's-
franchise-wise, right? Like, there's been this, like, they have Hank McCoy, whatever, popping up at the end of movies, and you just kind of go, like, can I please just stop worrying about the Fox, all this other stuff? And this did seem like, okay, we're
that's
gonna
true.
seal it up, and instead they like opened it up.
Well,
wider.
I think the Hank McCoy that we get in the Marvels
that's
is a
true.
very
It might
different
not be.
Hank McCoy
Right.
than it's because he's CG and not full of makeup. But it is
Right.
Kelsey Grammer.
I think it opens it up only because this movie did so well. I will say because
Yeah.
it's so good, but it made so much money. This is a great closure until you realize it's making a lot of money because people thought all these characters were so funny and great together.
Right.
And now it's
Well,
going to
and
be
that-
like, well, they'll open a portal at the end of Secret Wars, and here come Blade and Elektra and Gambit, and
It feels like an emotional closer. Could be, right? We're saying
Yeah.
goodbye.
could be, yes.
Right.
No
now
way.
it feels like it won't be, and that kind of just like going forward, that makes me feel like, oh boy, and it makes the movie feel inconsequential
Well, they did this in
to
Spider-Man.
the characters in itself. What's that?
They did this in Spider-Man, right? Like this is the Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, where it's just like, okay, we're saying goodbye, and then that movie makes $1 billion. They're like, maybe we're not. Maybe
Right.
we're gonna bring him back for something.
Yeah.
So
We'll have to see.
I had a blast at this movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. The plot is very thin, Matt, in your assessment. But I had fun. Wolverine is one of my all-time favorites. So getting to see like all the different versions of Wolverine and a very comic accurate Wolverine at some point, I thought this was a blast.
And I
loved it.
don't think it undermines Logan because
does
the way
not.
they handled it. I don't know.
No,
I, mean,
I don't
We
either.
kind of touched on it, but it's like Logan happened. That's its own thing. This is a different Wolverine. And
a
if
different
you
Wolverine.
if you say you like comic books or if you like these to be more comic accurate, I mean, they jump around and people come back to life. They have different timelines, multiverse. Like this is what they do in comics.
Right.
And I think to the big news that Joe and I touched on in our little mini episode thing, Robert Downey Jr. is back. I think it's the same thing. It's like if they brought back Tony Stark Iron Man from our Earth, I would say yes. They undermined Iron Man's death. That's terrible. It's going to be a different.
It's going to be a different Tony Stark
guy. So this is what comics do, and you either have to be on board or you just don't like comics. It's
I
if
just
you don't
think
like
it's
comics,
fascinating
you're wrong.
because if you're a comic book collector, like yes, you were totally used to this. But if you only know these characters from film and that's your entry point, it will be jarring to you. But in the same way that Kids in the Hall talked about the Doors having no base, don't let that scare you. Let that free you.
yeah, exactly.
I cannot believe that's a great Kids in the Hall reference. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But you're right. Yeah.
I think I even impressed Matt.
I think you did.
I'm laughing. That's funny.
You're 100% right, though. I mean, I get that it's going to be jarring at first for people that don't know, but the people that are just going off on it, I told Joe, I think are the loudest, the loudest.
They always
minority
are.
that just,
they always
they
are.
hate Disney, they hate Marvel, so of course they're going to go, oh, you're ruining Iron
They're
Man's
Zack
death.
Snyder
But
fans, and they were never going to buy a ticket anyway. It's like politics.
No, they're going to buy a ticket. They're going to bitch about it, but they're going to buy a ticket. They're going to go see it.
But most of the audience is excited.
Yeah.
You heard the hall erupt. People are like, they love Iron Man and Robert Downey Jr., so they don't give a crap.
I tweeted earlier this week, I'm like, the combination of Deadpool Wolverine box office and the return of Robert Downey Jr., I'm like, I haven't seen a collective fan base's mood change that rapidly since Kamala Harris.
Talk about a timely reference.
That was well done. It's not actually that will actually age. That will age well when this podcast
That's
is
funny
in 20.
because-
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, I guess that's true.
The way things
So
are
anyway,
going,
I guess that's it for this
Kamala
one. Let's
Harris-
go around the table and everyone can say where to find them.
This is Joe. You can follow me on the Twitter at Joey Butts, BUTTS21, and on Letterboxd at the same.
This is Kevin. Follow me on Twitter at Kevin R. Brackett.
My name's Matt. I don't feel like anybody's going to want to follow me. I feel like after I
Well,
didn't
there's
like
a
this
certain
movie.
fan base that will want to follow you.
they ain't listening to this show. I guess find me at patreon.com/real spoilers.
That's
Do a
right.
little podcast there. Check that out.
Okay, and this is
There it
Tom. You
is.
can find me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. And you can find the show online at facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group. And, of course, don't forget our aforementioned Patreon, where you can get even more Matt. So,
That's right.
Also, one more comment on this movie. Old-timey reference. This is a road movie.
Absolutely, it's a road
This
movie.
is- This is Hope and
100%.
Crosby 100% of the time. So,
Yes.
When I was seeing this movie, I was thinking, let Jackman and Reynolds make movies forever together. I would love to just see them. They've got great chemistry.
Yeah, but go watch Road to Morocco. It's
Yes.
the same
You're
vibe.
spot on.
Yeah. So anyway, that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, Chick and Wilbur escape in boats.
Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, cause we already won.